Barring any further delays, I would expect October to be the actual release date. That didn't age well. Hello everybody and welcome! This week we got some news regarding the planned release date for Kerbal Space Program 2. And you can call it good news or bad news depending on where you stand on this topic. So, what did actually happen? On the official Kerbal Space Program YouTube channel, creative director Nate Simpson himself announced a new release target: early 2023. Yes, it is another delay. Again. But in my opinion, this time things are a bit different, and I'd like to talk to you about why that is. First, if you haven't yet, please watch Nate's video yourself and read what he wrote on the KSP forums. I have linked both in the video description. I will wait right here while you pause my video and do that. Alright, now that you're all caught up, let's break down 5 things we learned from this announcement. Why is this announcement different? If you remember the previous delays that were communicated, each of them were more or less a press release on Twitter or a forum post. This time, Nate Simpson, who has been the face of the development team since KSP2's announcement in August 2019, not only sat down for a video message but also said, "I can finally answer that question," in regards to people asking when the game will come out. This sounds a bit more definitive than the previous release announcements. Also, Kerbal Space Program 2 has now been in development for a couple of years, at least since 2019. The further a project matures, the more confident a development team gets with their estimates. It's a bit like trying to hit a target from dozens of kilometers away versus staring at it just a few meters away. This is normal in any project. We can also compare this announcement to the previous communicated release targets. In August 2019, when KSP2 was announced, the trailer claimed Spring 2020, about 6 to 9 months away from that announcement. Then, in November 2019, we learned that the game would slip into the parent company's fiscal year 2021, which was a range of 5 to 17 months away from that date. Then, in May 2020, it was said the game was delayed until fall 2021, more than a year removed from that announcement. Half a year later, again in November, we just heard delayed until 2022, up to 2 years further down the line from that date. If you notice, the time spans were getting larger with every delay announcement. Now we have a far smaller range between May 2022 and early 2023. But what is that range? Well, let's talk about exactly that. What does early 2023 even mean? What I'm going to tell you now I already mentioned in some previous videos, so check out my KSP2 playlists right up there to see all of these previous videos. Kerbal Space Program 2 was originally developed by Star Theory, who were contracted to do so by Private Division, a subsidiary of Take-Two Interactive. After some not-so-savory behind-the-scene business stuff happened, development switched to Intercept Games, directly funded by Private Division, with most of the original KSP2 team joining that new studio. So, since all of them are part of that big corporation called Take-Two, they are subject to certain outlines that parent company issues to its subsidiaries, including the fiscal year. Unlike the calendar year, which starts in January and ends in December, every company can choose to have their accounting set up in a different way. Take-Two's fiscal year starts in April and ends in March. And these types of companies have a big incentive to keep things planned for a specific fiscal year right there within that fiscal year. In their recent investor call, Take-Two claimed that KSP2 will come out in their fiscal year 2023, which just started 1 month ago, in April. This leads me to believe that the current aim is to have the game out between January and March 2023 to fit within that fiscal year. But it poses another question. Will this be enough time for the game to live up to the high bar of quality that the team has set for themselves? As always with these types of projects, release dates are a compromise between what the development team can deliver and what business interests desire. I mean, at the end of the day, the company that has now paid for multiple years of KSP2 development will want to see a return on their investment. But what can we expect in that release in early 2023? That leads me to my next item. What can we expect now? If you check out the playlist I mentioned, I already listed a few of the things that will be included in Kerbal Space Program 2. New types of rocket technology, new star systems and planets, a completely new colony system that we still know very little about. Well, from this new statement we can only learn that KSP2 will have peerless graphics and a universe that is rich and interesting to explore. The lack of interesting things to do once you have reached a planet or moon in the original Kerbal Space Program, except for the occasional Easter egg, was one of the biggest criticisms of the original game. How the developers plan on achieving this is yet unknown. Setting up colony supply lines to enable certain types of construction for different rocket technologies might be a way to keep things interesting, but I doubt that will be everything to keep players engaged. We also learned that KSP2 will come out on PC first and on consoles later. When later? We don't know. So that is another open question and also a good segue to my next point. What is the state of development? Every piece of footage that has been released so far had a pre-alpha watermark on it. If you follow a classic software release life cycle, that is the earliest possible state the game could be in. It is also what you would call a nightly build. After pre-alpha, there is alpha, then beta, a release candidate, then RTM, which stands for release to manufacturing, and then general availability, or GA for short. Basically, everything after a release candidate is already the release itself. The fact that we see pre-alpha on the footage up until now shouldn't be too much of a concern, since everything newly added will be pre-alpha until the feature set is locked in and the team starts internal testing. We also were reminded by Nate Simpson that the team working on Kerbal Space Program 2 includes developers that have already worked on the original. How many that are and how big their part within the entire team really is unknown at this point. I have tried to get answers to all of the questions I talk about in this video from the development team, but I haven't gotten any detailed answers, unfortunately. They did, however, share an anecdote about a strange bug they encountered. A rocket they launched would explode violently after about 10 seconds off the pad. It was a complete head-scratcher because atmospheric flight had worked fine before, so they claim. As it turned out, some newly added visual effects for RCS pulses was treated by the game as if it were a solid part even when not active. Basically, any added RCS element acted as a parachute, ripping that part off the rocket. After they realized what it was an easy fix apparently. So yeah, at least they're building and launching rockets already. And despite senior game designer Tom Venita's comments,
"Our ultimate goal is to slay the Kraken,"
it appears the mythical beast still has a few opportunities to rear its head. I mentioned that I did not get any detailed answers, and that is actually my next topic. What was not said? Ever since Private Division took closer reins of the development by creating an in-house studio, they also are very much trying to control the narrative surrounding the game. This is a marked departure from the development of the original game, where lone creator Felipe Falang, known to the community as Harvester, basically gave full transparency into the process, especially at the beginning. But now that there is a lot more manpower and money behind the sequel, corporate interests come into play. I had prepared a long list of questions to my contacts, but they went unanswered up until now. By the way, if you're interested in these questions, I have posted them on my freshly updated Patreon site, where I will be more active from now on. Link up there or in the description. More on that later. Back to the topic of communication between the developers and the fans. While transparency is not as complete as it was with early KSP, Kerbal Space Program 2 offers way more insights into the inner workings of what is going on than other game titles with big budgets. So this should not be taken as a big complaint from my side. I mean, sure, I would like to see and hear way more than what we got so far, but I can understand that they want to save up a lot of stuff until shortly before the release. But there is this thing communication theorist Paul Václavic, a fellow Austrian by the way, said: you cannot not communicate. By being silent on some topics, you also assign meaning to these things. And here are just a few of the things we haven't heard about yet. Multiplayer. Nothing since the announcement in 2019. Early access or a demo version. No information on this, despite the community asking for it. Final pricing. We know about PC and consoles, but what about Mac or Linux versions? All of this invites a lot of speculation around these items, and not necessarily in a good way. So let's take pricing for instance. If you go to the SteamDB, we can see that the game will be excluded from family sharing, meaning if you want to let your kids play it, it will not be possible unless you get it multiple times. Or unless you can just copy the game folder like you did with the original. And the original also worked with family sharing. So why is a game excluded from family sharing in general, you may ask? The official info from Steam is that this is the case if the game requires another account or product key or a subscription. But there is also a technical reason. You cannot play at the same time using this feature on two different Steam accounts. So, multiplayer actually confirmed? Well, that's everything I could distill out of the sparse info I could gather. What do you think about the newly set release date? Do you think they will hit the target of early 2023 this time? Or will there be another delay? What do you think about the things unsaid? What is your interpretation of them? Let me know in the comments below or over on my Discord server, link is in the description. And as I mentioned, I also ask you to visit my newly updated Patreon site with new reward tiers and special roles for my Discord server and a tier where you can get early access to new videos before everybody else does. So please head on over there and check it out. Now that we have more time on our hands for some crazy Kerbal rocket builds, let's use that until early 2023. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel for more and follow me on my social thingies. The links are in the description. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.